Morning and good afternoon and good evening to all of those who are joining us today across the different time zones. We do have quite a few different time zones today. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this very special program for individual members. You hold a special place in the heart of Women's League, and we wanted to give you a program that is exclusively yours. Today, we are very fortunate and honored to be studying and learning with Dr. Naomi Graetz, teacher and author. We will formally introduce Dr. Graetz in just a few moments. For those of you who do not know me, I am Gail Goldfarb, Women's League co-chair for individual membership. I would like to recognize Jill Tomar. Jill, why don't you wave? My co-chair partner. Jill and I are also very lucky to have Mimi Pollock. Mimi, if you're there, can you wave? Women's League consultant, board member, mentor, and friend as a member of the individual membership team. I would like to recognize the membership coach.
Sorry, Gail, you were just muted, so you have to go back. I was trying to spotlight you and it muted instead.
Oh God, you're gonna spotlight me?
At the part, you were up to the part where you're going to tell who's on the committee.
Oh, I was just gonna introduce Meryl Balaban and Regina Newman, who head the entire membership team, and welcome all of the members of the membership team, the whole membership committee that are on today. A lot of introductions today. At this time, I would like to welcome our outstanding international president, Debbie Kaner-Goldich, who has worked tirelessly for Women's League since well before she became international president. Debbie, I know you're in the airport in Phoenix, and I know your greetings will come through Rabbi later, but we're happy you're there. Just be safe. Also joining us today, Rabbi Ellen Wallens-Fields, Executive Director of Women's League, who will be delivering the Devar Torah in just a few moments. Rabbi Margie Sella, Educational Programming Coordinator for Women's League, and past International President Margie Miller is also with us today. We are extremely delighted to welcome so many of our region presidents who are here on this program today. And I just like to mention them. If you hear your name and you can wave, that'd be great. Barbara Kaplan, president of BQLI, Pamela Schlossberg, Central Great Lakes, Jeanette Brownstein, Florida, Lynette Cedar, Garden State, Marilyn Cohen, International Northeast, Ruth Harris, Intracontinental, Marcia Wasserman, Mid-Atlantic, Ilona Roll, North Atlantic, and Marjorie Furman from my region, Seaboard. It is now, welcome all the presidents. We're so glad that you're here too. Thank you all for coming, and it is now my great pleasure to introduce to you Rabbi Ellen Wallens-Fields, Executive Director of Women's League, who will be bringing us a Devar Torah. Rabbi Ellen?
Yes, so I need to remove all the spotlights. I'm not spotlighting myself, but I need to bring up my speech, so just give me one moment.
Sure.
It's easier taking care of my children and working at the same time than doing this at the same time. That's okay. That's because I had a very good model on how to work and raise children at the same time with my mother, who's a member, an international member right here, but she didn't have this technology when she was raising us, so it wasn't the same thing. It's good to be with everybody today. Thank you for being here. I come to you from New Jersey, where outside it's freezing. On inside, I can't figure out if I'm cold or hot, but I guess that's life. So sorry if my face is very flushed. Feeling very hot today, but it's great to be with everybody, especially Naomi. And if my daughter ever goes and gets to meet you, I hope that you give her a big hug, because I'm missing that for sure. So I wanted to give you a little Devar Torah to give you a taste of the Parsha coming up, which is Parshat Beshalach. So there was an assignment given to the Chumash class, the Torah class at the day school for the Parshat Shavua. You were supposed to depict the Torah reading through an art project. So Cameron, my daughter, finished her project in record time, and she presented her project to the class at school. She was so proud of it. So proud of it. She thought she aced it. Cameron aces everything, and she got a 0 on the assignment. Now, why did she get a 0? Here, she handed in a blank paper, and she explained to the teacher what it was, that it represented the parting of the Red Sea. There was water on either side, and the Israelites walked right through it. She thought it was ingenious. She didn't think she deserved a 0. It's the only 0 she's ever gotten in her life. That's what she got. It's incredible. I thought it was ingenious too, but she told me not to bother the teacher, so she kept the 0 on her record. So this week we read the Song of the Sea, Shirat Hayam, in Parshat Beshalach, and we chant this every single day in Psukei Zimra, right before Shacharit in the morning service. Why is it so important that we chant this every day? We rejoice because of the liberation of the children of Israel from their slavery in Egypt. So let's go back to her project. It was a little bigger than this. I didn't have the original. She has it in her box of memories so that she could see she got a 0 once. But this blank piece of paper for representing Parshat Beshalach teaches a lesson. This piece of blank paper shows the children of Israel leaving Egypt, leaving behind their former lives as slaves in Egypt. They're not sure what their new lives are going to be like. It's almost as if their lives as free people is a blank slate, like this blank piece of paper. The children of Israel just liberated from Egyptian slavery. They didn't know what was ahead of them. They didn't know what their future would be. It was totally unknown. They would be the ones who would fill in their own pages. And maybe that's a hint as to why we chant Shirat Hayam, Song of the Sea, every day in the prayer service. Each day, we're starting our lives anew. We have a clean slate. That's our purpose in life. It's a clean slate to do whatever we want. If any of you were on earlier and heard a different discussion going on. The days before happens, they're done with and are off our blank piece of paper. The new day is unknown, the future's unknown. But as we daven each morning, we could think, today is a new day. I begin anew, I have a new purpose today. What will I do differently today? So let me propose to all of us that each day we look at as the day as if we're crossing our Red Sea, that God has split it open for us. Yesterday was behind us, completely off the page. Tomorrow's ahead of us, also off the page. And today is on this page. It's a blank page. It's our job to fill in that blank page and see how we'll improve ourselves. We all have the present right now, our purpose to figure out each and every day. Every day we have a blank piece of paper in which the opportunity to color, to decorate, and to fill in the text as we wish. The Israelites leaving Egypt, crossing through the Red Sea, didn't know what was ahead of them. They just knew that presently, it seemed like there was a big adventure, searching for a new life. Similarly, let us see today and each day as a search for something, getting ready for a big adventure, searching, striving for something, looking to realize that each day is our type of day of liberation, our own Yetziat Mitzrayim, our own exodus from Egypt. Each day when we recite Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea, we must remind ourselves that each day we're telling ourselves and we're telling God that every day is a new adventure. Each day we'll strive to change ourselves. Each day we'll strive to have new purpose in life. My hope and prayer for all of us is that we strive to remember that each day we're liberated slaves, ready to start a new adventure, searching for ways to improve our lives, yearning to seize, to hold, and to fill in our blank pages of the present, sandwiched between the split of the past lives, being what we were, and the future lives in front of us of what we will be. I pray that God may be our strength every day, as God was the strength of the children of Israel crossing the Red Sea, so we can all strive to fill in our blank pages of the present as best as we can. And I can tell you that as the executive director of Women's League for Conservative Judaism, this has been the greatest adventure of my life, filling in the blank pages every day, hand in hand with our presidents. I've gotten to work with Margie Miller and now Debbie Kainer-Goldich, who wishes that she could be speaking, but she knows that it's hard to be speaking and greeting everybody in the lounge in the airport as she travels for Women's League to help Ziegler, and she fills in that blank page every day. And I can tell you, it's not just one blank page she fills in every day, it's a whole journal of blank pages that she fills in and makes sure from sunrise, not even sunrise, before sunrise, way past sunset. So Debbie, we're sorry we can't actually hear from you, but be safe. I'm glad you're wearing a mask. I hope everybody around you is wearing a mask. And let's remember, we have this blank page to fill in each and every day with our purpose in life. And I know that I'm especially glad that all of our individual members are here alongside Women's League to create purpose and meaning in your lives as well. So toda rabah, and thank you for this opportunity. And Debbie, safe travels to you.
Wow. Thank you, Rabbi Ellen. Woo. Very insightful and inspiring too. All right, at this time, I am very happy to introduce my co-chair and friend, Jill Tomar, who will welcome Dr. Naomi Graetz. Jill, it's all yours.
Thank you, Gail. If I sound a little hoarse, actually, I'm sounding better than I have all week. I've been sick all week. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Graetz. And the topic of her talk is Introduction to Modern Midrash. I have the pleasure of I started studying with Dr. Graetz on Thursday. For me, it's Thursday morning. For her, it's Thursday evening in her Midrash class, which has been really wonderful for me. Before retiring, Naomi Graetz taught English at Ben Gurion University of the Negev for 35 years. She is the author of Unlocking the Garden, a feminist Jewish look at the Bible, Midrash, and God. The Rabbi Wife's play at Murder. He created them, feminist retellings of biblical stories, and Silence is Deadly, Judaism Confronts Wife Beating. She has recently completed a new manuscript, 40 Years of Being a Feminist Jew, which is available on her website and occasionally updated. For the past almost 2 years, she has enjoyed teaching internationally on Zoom, and the PowerPoints that accompany her Bible classes are a labor of love. I'd like to introduce Dr. Naomi Graetz. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I'm not a doctor, but thank you Women's League for the honorary doctorate. Sometimes you refer to me as rabbi and sometimes as professor. I'm always happy to be honored in such a way. And Rabbi Ellen, I loved your drash because it, of course, segues into what I'm talking about today, which are all the gaps, filling in gaps. So I'm a little rushed today because I'm under pressure to keep this down to 40 plus minutes. So I'll start by sharing the screen. And on the screen, I'm dedicating this to my daughter, Rabbi Ariella Graetz, to Alice Shalvey, and this is me over here. I've known Alice since 1965. She was my teacher, my mentor, my honorary mother. And so I'm really delighted. I had invited her to come, but she has something else this evening. So when we talk about Midrash, let me give you a little bit of background before we actually talk about it, because I've been really telling biblical stories, retelling since the mid-'80s, and I've really been working on this for many years. And what I plan to do this evening for me, mid-morning for most of you, is to introduce you to modern Midrash, and I'll be talking about traditional and modern Midrash. And as you can see here, Jacob is fighting with the angel. Midrash is a form of wrestling with the text and also wresting answers from the text. And possibly the first person to demand an answer using the root word Dalet Resh Shin Drash, which is the root of Midrash, was Rebecca when she was pregnant with twins, demanding answers. My first introduction to Midrash was in 1985 when I was at my sister's house in Teaneck, New Jersey. I was on a sabbatical and I had terrible jet lag. And I would constantly get up in the night and browse through her library. And I discovered there in a 3-ring binder Midrash, a collection of Midrashim of Rabbi Mark Gelman. It hadn't been published yet. I believe my sister knew him from the Chavuram movement. And it was my first exposure to modern Midrash. And that summer, when I was in Camp Ramah, as a teacher, one of the camp rabbis read a Midrash to a group, and it was called The First Hamburger. Recently, Googling Rabbi Gelman, I heard him talking to Rabbi Ed Feinstein, and you could Google yourself, and you could find this conversation. And he told Rabbi Feinstein that he wrote this Midrash when his daughter Mara was born in 1972, and it was his very first Midrash. And so those of you who have been studying with me know I constantly accompany all of my PowerPoints with pictures. And this is the cover of his book, Does God Have a Big Toe? And supposedly he writes for children, but as far as I'm concerned, he is writing for adults. And in this conversation that he had in 1984 at, I think it was the YMHA, he said, when he comes upon a hook in the Torah, a word or phrase or idea that catches his sense of wonder, he is moved to write a story around it. And he was struck by the fact that the first mention of meat eating in the Bible appears in the tale of Noah. And he told a story about that. Now I'm going to read to you the story. It's a short story, just before talking about modern Midrash, to give you a sense of what modern Midrash is. In other words, I'm going to show and then afterwards tell. So this is the story. Once animals talked just like people. Once every living creature ate only grass and nuts and a few berries when they could find them. No living thing ever thought about killing another living thing to eat it until the day Noah wanted a hamburger. One night, Noah dreamed of a hamburger. When he woke up, Noah wanted one really badly, but he wasn't exactly sure how to get a hamburger. So he asked his friend, the cow, I dreamed about a hamburger last night. Do you know how I could get one? The cow gave Noah a puzzled look and asked, what's the hamburger? I don't know exactly, Noah replied. All I know is that in my dream, the hamburger was something delicious between 2 buns with lettuce, onions, pickles, and some special sauce. Have some more grass and forget about it, said the cow. Noah asked the snake, who was the smartest of all the animals, what's a hamburger and how can I get one? The snake whispered in Noah's ear, to get one, you have to make one. I don't know how to make one, Noah sputtered. The snake laughed, pointed at the cow, who was peacefully munching grass, and said, to make a hamburger, you have to kill that cow, chop up her meat, and fry it in a pan or flame broil it. Noah's mouth opened wide. But the cow is my friend. She's a living thing just like me. I can't kill her, chop up her meat, and fry it in a pan. And what's flame broiling anyway? By now, the snake was rolling around on the ground laughing. Kid, if you want a hamburger, that's what you gotta do. Well, Noah really wanted a hamburger, and so that's what he really did. The first hamburger tasted delicious. But when Noah came again to the fields, everything was different. When he walked toward the birds, they flew away. When Noah went over to say hello to the cows and the sheep and the buffalo, they ran away from him. Even the fish swam away when they heard Noah coming. Noah could not understand what had happened to his friends, the animals, and he could not find one single animal who would explain it to him. In fact, since the day when Noah ate the first hamburger, no animal has ever talked to a person. They are still too angry. So, what's Midrash? All right. this particular Midrash answers, if it reminds you a little bit of the Garden of Eden, it should. And it also should remind you of the fact that after the flood, even though in the Garden of Eden, everyone was vegetarian, that when you had the, after the flood, meat was allowed with restrictions. You couldn't eat the blood, but so it basically is filling in a lot of the gaps. So Midrash is, first of all, a literary technique. And it is also a discrete piece of literature. There's what we call classical Midrash written by rabbis, which consists of male rabbis in the past, which consists of explanations and literary expansions of biblical and to a lesser extent post-biblical texts. And Midrash is a genre begun by the rabbis in antiquity, and the main flowering of mainstream Midrash, rabbinic Midrash, was roughly between the years 400 and 1200 CE. There are two types of Midrash, exegesis and eisegesis. And these terms are really, I find that they're sometimes interchangeable, but just to give a little bit of rules, let's just see what we have here. So when is exegesis? There are gaps in the text, or the author wants to make something relevant. A word might be repeated, so the question is, why is it repeated? Or something is missing, there's a character mentioned, but we don't know anything about the character. Sometimes a name is given to the character, and sometimes the character is fleshed out. We just heard a drasha before from a pulpit rabbi. Your pulpit is very big, Rabbi Ellen, but she wished to discuss some moral issue, and she used the text to make her point, right? Now, if the starting point is our own personal concern or some contemporary problem that bothers us, and we read it back into the biblical text, this is called eisegesis. In his conversation with Rabbi Feinstein, Mark Gilman said that this was not real Midrash, because the pulpit rabbi uses the first person I and says things like, just as. I don't agree with him, by the way, but this is he has a right, of course, and he's a wonderful Midrash writer. But I think that basically the rabbis in pulpits are also doing Midrash, and that's why it's called a drasha, right? And there are many multiple interpretations, and very often in the Midrash, the person writing the Midrash, whether it's contemporary Midrash or classical Midrash, an ethical choice is being made, and there is some motivation behind it. It's not purely what we would call exegesis. I think that there's eisegesis all the time going on. So very often traditional Midrashim are demeaning to women, and they often describe women in terms of their body parts. A typical and classical, and maybe well known to you, you may have heard this Midrash before, it's repeated quite a few times. The one that I chose for you is from Deuteronomy Rabbah, from the Midrash in chapter 6, verse 11. And in this, Miriam is speaking. And basically, you have a whole list of things that are wrong with women. God does not want to create the woman from the eye or from the ear so that she won't be an eavesdropper, so that she won't be talkative, she won't be a thief. And the Midrash, you can read this very quickly, goes on. And basically, Rachel steals the Trophim. So we're not going to create her because she's a thief. We're not going to create her from a foot because Leah went out. By the way, who did Leah go out to meet? She went out to meet her husband. But anyway, she went out. Anyone who goes out is a problem. And finally, this particular Midrash is about Miriam. And I will not create her from the mouth, that she may not be talkative. Yet of Miriam the pious it is written, and Miriam spoke, and see what beheld her. Remember what the Lord thy God did unto Miriam. So here's one other Midrash, which is much shorter, also about Miriam. And Miriam is considered to be like a snake. Rabbi Isaac said, the snake that bites everyone who passes by, and it is surprising that anyone is willing to associate with it. So Moses said, Miriam spoke slander against me. That I could understand, since women, as a rule, are talkative. And by the way, this particular picture, which is really a cute picture, but I think it also gets all of these elements in here. And when I saw it, I just couldn't resist putting it up here to accompany this particular midrash. And then, of course, you have the whole problem of woman as meat. And if you think of the well-known restaurant Hooters, it's a perfect example of women as meat selling themselves. Even the Hooters, if you look at these little Hooters, what do they look like? You don't see it for yourself. They look like breasts, all right? And the waitresses very often are dressed in a provocative way. And you have here a very well-known midrash of where women are depicted as meat in the Babylonian Talmud, in Nidarim 20a and b. And in this particular one discussion, it basically is how a man can sleep with his wife, right? Can he use the mission? Does it only have to be the missionary position? And our sages said a man may do whatever he wants with his wife, right? It's just like meat, right? Meat which comes from the abattoir may be eaten salted, roasted, cooked, seasoned. So with the fish from the fishmonger. In other words, the husband can do whatever he wants with his wife without offending the laws of chastity. A woman once came before a rabbi and said, Rabbi, I set a table before my husband. By the way, the table has nothing to do with the table, even though I put the table over here on the side as a joke. But the rabbi said, my daughter, the Torah hath permitted thee to him. What then can I do for thee? He can do whatever he wants with you. A woman once came before Rab and complained, Rabbi, I set a table before my husband, but he overturned it. Rab replied, wherein does it different from a fish? And finally, Rabbi taught, one may not drink out of one goblet. So now women are also goblets, and think of another. When you sleep with one woman, you shouldn't think of another one. And Rabina said this is necessary only when both are his wives. So you have here this problem of woman as meat. So having started with this introduction, a rather long introduction, but even so, to live with our sacred texts, we have to interpret them, justify them, even approve of them. And this is the function of Midrash. But why do we need modern Midrash? Merle Feld, who was born in 1947, who was a little bit younger than I am, wrote this wonderful, wonderful poem, which repeats itself over and over again. And you may have come across it. It's called We All Stood Together. And when we all stood together at Sinai, and it was dedicated to Rachel Adler, a wonderful feminist philosopher and theologian. My brother and I were at Sinai. He kept a journal of what he saw, of what he heard, of what it all meant to him. I wish I had such a record of what happened to me there. It seems like every time I want to write, I can't. I'm always holding a baby, one of my own or one for a friend, always holding a baby. So my hands are never free to write things down. And then as time passes, the particulars, the hard data, the who, what, when, where, why, slip away from me. And all I'm left with is the feeling. But feelings are just sounds, the vowel barking of a mute. My brother is so sure of what he heard. After all, he's got a record of it. Consonant after consonant after consonant. If we remembered it together, we could recreate holy time, sparks flying. This is Merle Feld's call for women to write Midrash. You can hold your baby in your hand, but you also have a right to somehow or another get out there and write your Midrash. In as early as the 70s, Jewish women were re-engaging with our canonical texts. We were liberating God, writing new rituals, and critiquing mikvah. We created Rosh Chodesh observances and wrote Chagadot for women. In short, we women were patriarchalizing our tradition. Judith Plaskow, who wrote a wonderful midrash, which I'm going to share with you in a minute, wrote the following in her book, Standing Again at Sinai. The open-ended process of writing Midrash, simultaneously serious and playful, imaginative, metaphoric, has easily lent itself to feminist use. And she goes on, and she ends this quotation with, if it is our text and we are reclaiming these texts as ours, it can and must answer our questions and share our values. If we wrestle with this text, it will yield up meaning. And in one of the first collections of women's midrashim, which is called Taking the Fruit, Modern Woman's Tale of the Bible, which came out in 1981, she included Judith Plaskow's story about Lilith, right? And Lilith is imagined to be the first partner of God, created co-equal from the earth and demanding sexual equality. In other words, when in Genesis 1, you have a problem, because in Genesis 1, you have man and woman are created equal, whereas in later on, you have a woman coming out of the man's side. So you have two versions of women's creation. So Lilith was the imaginative partner, and later on we had Eve. So you have here a very interesting story about Lilith, who is in the story by Judith Plaskow. And the story goes as follows. I don't know if I'll read all of it, but just to give you a taste of it, you could find it online. In the beginning, the Lord God formed Adam and Lilith from the dust of the ground and breathed into their nostrils the breath of life. Created from the same source, both having been formed from the ground, they were equal in all ways. Adam, being a man, didn't like this situation, and he looked for ways to change it. He said, I'll have my figs now, Lilith, ordering her to wait on him. And he tried to leave to her the daily task of life in the garden. But Lilith wasn't one to take any nonsense. She picked herself up, uttered God's holy name, and flew away. Well now, Lord, complained Adam, that uppity woman you sent me has gone and deserted me. The Lord, inclined to be sympathetic, sent his messengers after Lilith, telling her to shape up and return to Adam or face dire punishment. She, however, preferred anything to living with Adam, decided to stay where she was. And so God, after more careful consideration this time, caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and out of one of his ribs, created for him a second companion, Eve. For a good time, even Adam had a good thing going. Adam was happy now. And Eve, though she occasionally sensed capacities within herself that remained undeveloped, was basically satisfied with the role of Adam's wife and helpful. All right, but she was disturbed by the relationship that Adam had with God. And so I'm just going to skip a little bit. Meanwhile, Lilith, all alone, attempted from time to time to rejoin the community in the garden. After her first fruitless attempt to breach its walls, Adam worked hard to build them stronger, even getting Eve to help him. He told her fearsome stories of the demon Lilith, who threatens women in childbirth and steals children from their cradles in the middle of the night. The second time Lilith came, she stormed the garden's main gate, and a great battle ensued between her and Adam, in which she was finally defeated. This time, however, before Lilith got away, Eve got a glimpse of her and saw that she was a woman like herself. After this encounter, seeds of curiosity and doubt began to grow in Eve's mind. Was Lilith indeed just another woman? Adam had said she was a demon. Another woman? The very idea attracted Eve. She had never seen another creature like herself before, and how beautiful and strong Lilith looked. How bravely she had fought. Slowly, slowly, Eve began to think about the limits of her own life within the garden. Okay. And so here you have a picture of Adam clutching a child in the presence of the child snatcher Lilith. This is a fresco by Filipino Lippi in Florence. And it's an amazing picture. And playing into the fact that Lilith is a threatening creature. Very often she appears in art with a snake around her, and putting bad ideas into other women. So here are some suggestions for taking back our texts. We don't have to go as far as Judith, who killed Holofernes, or Yael, who killed Sisera. We can critique and analyze our tradition, and then we can start taking control. We can say no. Anger is a good fuel if we make changes, but let's not throw out the baby with the bath with the dirty water. Here you have an example of Judith, who is, according to the very well-known artist Artemisia Gentileschi, slaying Holofernes, and she is basically turning the rape that she experienced at the age of 17 by her painting tutor. She is turning her rage at the rapist into killing. Right, this very bloody picture. I can make it a little bit bigger so that you can see it. This very, very brutal, bloody picture. You can see the rage in the women killing him, and you also have a lighter. You also have lighter. You have lighter. It's a little bit before Purim, but you have lighter themes here in the ritual well. Some of you may have heard this song by Margaret Stein, Razel Raphael, Bela Ruchama, and Juliet Spitzer, which they wrote for Purim and for Rosh Chodesh Adar in 1988. I don't think I have time to play it for you. I have it here, but I don't have time to play it for you, so I won't. And then there's my particular poem that I also wrote years ago, which I called Vashti Derobed. Straight and proud she stands, not for her this election she has refused. She has objected. She will not subject herself, submit to gazing drunken eyes boring into her. The path she has chosen is different. Not for her the party clothes, the giggling, the dressing up for others. She is other, anomaly, threat to claims of supremacy. Vashti bends down, not for her supplications. She bares her head for the first and last time. The party is over for her. If you notice, you have here this theme that Judith Plaskow, with her strong Lilith, that I have with Vashti, even though she may have been killed. It's not clear what happens to her, but in the Megillat Esther. But you have strong women who take other paths, who choose their own paths, and very often this is a theme that you'll find in modern midrash by women. I'm just showing you some pictures of a collection of midrashim from my personal library. I'm sure there are many more out there. Some of you may have these books. Maybe you're seeing them for the first time. I use these books regularly when I teach. And here's another batch of them here. You can see them here. And here are the two that I have, which are basically the same that my own midrashim. I have a personal list of troubling texts. All right. I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it, but I'm not going to read all of them. But I'm going to point to a few that really bother me, because I have two little videos here that I'd like to share with you afterwards. One is the flood that destroyed the world. The other is Moses' killing of the Egyptian taskmaster. And the last one, which is the genocide of the population of the promised land, men, women, children. I'm going to show you some, okay, let me just make this go back to normal. I'm just going to also show you that midrash can be political commentary as well. And if you look at this particular picture here, you can see this picture by Siona Benjamin, all right, of Sarah and Hagar intertwined with each other, right? And you could see that Sarah is wearing a kippah on her head and tefillin, and Hagar is wearing, of course, the hijab and prayer beads. They're wound together in a tight embrace. They're wounded together. This is blood here, and their bodies are bleeding. And on the left, you have amputee soldiers who are amputees, And you have here you have a surveillance camera which has identified 3 suicide bombers. So you have here the mingling of Jews and Arabs together in a bloody situation, but notice that they are reunited, all right? So this is a political picture done through art, but you also can have political satire, which we see in The Jews Are Coming. Unfortunately, The Jews Are Coming, Hayudim Ba'im, have very few episodes which have subtitles. Now, I'm going to show you one right now. I have another one afterwards, but I don't think we'll have time for more than one. I'm going to show you one right now. I'm going to stop sharing 1 minute. I'm going to go into share screen again. And 1 minute, I have to, okay. And pay attention to the subtitles. If you could follow the Hebrew, that would be wonderful. It's a very disturbing, you'll see right away that Moses is giving the 10 Commandments. Okay, share. Okay.
רבותיי, אלה הדיברות שאתם צריכים לקיים. שאלות?
כשאתה אומר לא תישא את שם אדוני לשווא, אז לא הרגע אמרת את השם שלו?
לא, אדוני זה לא השם שלו.
אז איך קוראים לו?
קוראים לו אדוני.
אז כן קוראים לו אדוני.
לא, זה לא השם שלו אדוני. השם שלו מתחיל בי' ונגמר ב-A. יוספה. לא, נו.
יודה.
עזבו, לא חשוב. שאלה הבאה.
לא תחמוד אשת רעך. זה אומר שאסור אפילו לחשוב עליה?
נכון.
אפילו אם היא ממש שווה?
כן, גם אם היא ממש שווה.
ואם אני מסתכל עליה וכל הזמן אומר לעצמי, אל תחשוב עליה, אל תחשוב עליה. זה נחשב שאני חושב עליה?
אני לא יודע, אני אברר לך את זה.
אבל תברר, כי אני לא רוצה ליפול פה על סתירה לוגית.
עוד שאלות?
זה בקשר לכבד את אביך ואת אמך.
נו, באמת.
ומה אם נניח אבא שלי רצח מישהו תוך כדי שהוא חושב על אשתו השווה של השכן?
צודק. אם זה המצב, אז אל תכבד. בסדר? עוד שאלות.
לגבי הלא תרצח.
מה לא ברור בלא תרצח? למה צריך להתווכח על כל דבר? לא תרצח, לא תרצח. מה לא ברור פה?
זה כולל עמלקים? כי אתה ביקשת שנמחה את זכרם. עכשיו, כשאני מוחה זכר, אז אני עושה את זה בעזרת רצח. אז אני מפספסת פה משהו.
צודקת, שימי את העמלקים בצד. לא תרצח, לא כולל עמלקים.
ופלישתים.
כן, וחיטים.
ומורים.
ויבוסים.
וגרגסים.
אבל זה לא מה שאמרתי.
אבל אתה ביקשת מאיתנו שננקה את ארץ ישראל מכל יושביה.
אבל זה לא אומר שצריך ישר לרצוח אותם.
אז מה נעשה איתם? נשלח אותם לשייט?
רבותיי, בסדר, הבנתי. לא תרצח למעט פלישתים, עמלקים, גרגסים, יבוסים, ומורים וחיטים.
ומצרים.
מה מצרים? מה מצרים? את ראית פעם מצרים בארץ כנען?
אתה רצחת פעם מצרי, מה? אז למה לך מותר ולנו לא? מה, אתה יותר טוב מאיתנו?
מה זה?
לא, הנה, תראו אותו, כן, מסתובב לו בעולם, רוצח איזה מצרי שבא לו, אבל לנו לא. לנו אסור, למה? כי הוא משה, והוא יכול לרצוח את מי שבא לו.
לא תרצח! לא תרצח! מה לא ברור בלא תרצח! לא תרצח! פשוט לא! עוד שאלות?
לא, לא. אנחנו, ברשותך, נלך לעבוד את אלוהינו.
לחשוב עליה אם היא מתה זה לא נחשב, נכון?
לך מפה כבר!
Okay. I think it's clear. I mean, I don't think you have to really explain that particular, but as I mentioned on my list, I pointed specifically to this as a problem. Let me just finish with, and then if there are any questions, 1 minute, I have to go back into sharing the screen. 1 minute. Oh, by the way, as far as the Jews are coming, if you're, I just took this off of Wikipedia, you could look it up yourself, but you can imagine that there were a lot of people who were very angry with this and they tried to censor it. And they actually made the news last year because of this. To sum up, Jody Myers writes that a person who crafts a new midrash is contesting or augmenting the existing renditions of the text. This is a creative act, but it is also an aggressive one that involves determination and willingness to face opposition. In other words, very often the person who writes midrash is not going to be very popular. And if you want to begin, how do you begin? You can begin by choosing a small text. It could be a word, or it could be something that bothers you. Or how can you solve a particular problem? The question is, can men and women who experience a conflict with those who continue to interpret the biblical text in a biased manner, can we do anything about it? And of course, the answer is yes. First of all, you have to study, you have to discuss, you have to be creative. For instance, I who read Torah on a regular basis, very often engage in what I call passive resistance if I don't like what I'm reading, by simply reading it sotto voce, very, very softly. And so that in that way, I can make my point without even going into explanation. And here is a list of, wait 1 minute, yeah, okay. And here is a list, I'll keep this on here for a few seconds, just so you can see, of women and some men writing midrash. And if there's time afterwards, for those of you who have time to stay on, I'll share with you one more little 3 minutes, very disturbing, little clip. Okay, so that's it. If there are questions, I don't know if any came up during the chat. I didn't look at the chat yet.
Yeah, there is one question on the chat so far. Susan Farber, I don't know if you want to pose. You want to ask it yourself or?
Thank you. Naomi, on an earlier screen, one of the first things you shared was a rabbi, his last name was with an S. I didn't catch because you go through the slides so quickly. It was very early on in your presentation, like the 3rd or 4th slide. You had a rabbinic commentary about the women's parts of the body with Miriam. So I wanted to know when that rabbi wrote that commentary.
You mean Rabbi Joshua of Siknin?
Yes.
Yes. This is all of these midrashim are, first of all, they're written and rewritten, and there's about 4 different versions of this, each one for a different mother. And this is repeated about 4 times, which is. But all of the traditional midrashim were written, as I said earlier, between 400 and 1200 CE. So this is, they're early texts.
Okay, so Naomi, what you're saying is this rabbi, what was his name again?
Joshua of Siknin. Siknin is a place.
Siknin.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's from the past, but he's been building on and re-emphasizing this problematic message regarding women and their parts of the body, is what you're saying. That he's not the only person that has reiterated that midrashic tendency, and it's from an earlier time period. He's just reiterated it at a later time period.
Well, I would do it differently. I would say that we are reiterating the ancient text. In other words, we have this problem in our past that we have texts like this, and so when we come to go to a restaurant like Hooters, these texts are out there, right? Yeah, we have wonderful texts as well, but we also have, there's a lot of misogyny in some of the ancient rabbinic texts. They sometimes say wonderful things about, let's say Miriam as an example. They love Miriam, but only when she's saving, saving Moses or encouraging her parents to get back together again. But when she speaks up against the Cushite woman, and she and Aaron speak, then they have only terrible things to say about her. So in other words, when women are following the party line of being supportive of their husbands or looking out for their children's interests, they are exceedingly supportive of these women. But when the women are doing something on their own and being independent, and the independence might even be something like Rebecca looking out for Jacob's interests, but the way she does it and the conniving is not that favorable to the rabbi. So they build on this on these stories.
Toda rabba. Thank you, Naomi.
Any
Are
other
there any
questions?
questions? Actually, I do. I mean, I asked you this and you told me to wait till one of the classes, and I figured I'd ask it now. I have some of the books I realized that you posted, and a beginning, I guess, a good beginning book or several books that would be good for looking at modern Midrash. What would you recommend to start?
Well, look, I think I could put it back on the screen. I could put back the on the screen all of the ones that I have here. I recommend all of them actually. I would recommend mine, except they're outrageously expensive, and so I don't really recommend them, to be perfectly honest. If your synagogue wants to buy them, or I'm actually looking into putting mine on the. How do I do this? Share. Share. Okay. I'll put them on here again. First of all, the one which I use in my class regularly is Sisters at Sinai, which is Jill Hammer's, which is wonderful. Naomi Hyman it's a good starter. I don't think it's in print anymore, so I don't know, but it's a good starter. Your synagogues might have it, because she brings the Bible story there, and she asks questions, and she brings some traditional midrashim, and then she brings in, a midrash that one of the people have written. I happen to have two of them in her book. Penina Edelman is a very interesting thing. She took the a midrash on Eshet Chayil, the woman of valor, and there's a midrash for every single line in the woman of valor. It's in the acrostic, if you remember, and every woman has a counterpart. Every line has a counterpart. So that, for instance, the Vashti and Esther are the one exception that they share one line, but otherwise everyone shares a different line. And this is good for children, not children, but teenagers, intelligent teenagers. It's also very good. It's a wonderful bar mitzvah gift. It might still be in print. I don't know. All the women followed her, basically mostly stories about Miriam. The 5 books of Miriam of Ellen Frankel is also very interesting. All the women are in dialogue with each other, writing about the Parshat HaShavua. So it follows the Parshat HaShavua. And these books here, Norma Rosen's stories are basically stories, and so is Michal Lemberger. These two they're basically stories, wonderful stories and modern midrashim. Willa Gaffney, I don't own this book, but I've used her material. She's a Black reverend who writes womanist midrash. This is definitely out of print, reading between the lines. And Sarah left. I don't know if that's in print or not. I have no idea if it's in print. But also, this is a wonderful example of what I called earlier eisegesis. reading into the text. She has her own problems. Some of them are even physical problems, and she reads them into the biblical text. And very, very interesting. Years ago, I wrote a review of the book, which is why I happen to own the book. But I don't know if I'm answering your question, but these books are all worthwhile owning.
Yes, you answered that.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Okay.
I just had an observance.
I see Susie T also raised her, yeah.
Thank you. Where might the red tent fall in this?
Okay, we just had this discussion in my class the other day. I stay away from the red tents because, first of all, I'm the one who wrote the biography of Anita Diamond for the new Jewish Women's, and years ago, I wrote to her when I was writing a review of her book, and I insulted her at the time by telling her, this is such a wonderful midrash. And she said, I don't think of it as midrash, I think of it as a novel. And so I, didn't want to get into an argument with her. I still maintain that it's a wonderful midrash. It's a counter midrash. And she has written some other novels, which are wonderful novels. And those are definitely novels, If you would like to see the list of the, okay, I'll bring it up. Again, you mean the bibliography at the end? Okay, I'll bring that up. So I'm not answering your question really, because I'm sort of staying away from giving an answer. But I think it's a wonderful midrash, and I think every woman should read it. I've given talks about it over the years, and I've actually shown. I've taught the story of the rape of Dinah together with looking at together with her book. Yeah. Oh wait, I meant to share the screen. Did I share the screen with that? Wait. Yeah. Good. I'm sorry. I thought I had shared it. Okay, now you can see it. Yeah.
Naomi, can I just make one observation? It's Rabbi.
Sure.
It was interesting to me because it's my thing. I'm obsessed with tefillin and like to teach about it a lot. That picture of Sarah and Hagar, that she wasn't wearing her Rosh tefillin. So I wonder if that was symbolic or if it's hidden in the picture somehow. And also I'm wondering I don't know if you want to share your whole slideshow, but maybe parts of the slideshow, especially the slides with the bibliography and the book on it, the books that we can maybe share with everyone who registered for the program.
Okay, I'm just looking here. Yeah, she doesn't have the tefillin. She has a kippah on, but you're right. She doesn't. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Very interesting.
Make a midrash there that she wasn't using the cerebral part there.
Right. Interesting. I'll tell you, I feel odd about this because let me just stop sharing. I would like to find some group. It could be this group or some other group. I would like to actually teach this. Again, I'm not interested in money or anything. I'd like to teach this. I have a whole, following the parsha, I have a whole selection of midrash of slides. Jill is coming to my class. Mimi is coming to my class. Debbie is coming to my class. Lita, who I saw earlier, is coming to my class. And I've been teaching these things, not to big groups, to small groups. In fact, I really would prefer only to have 25 people in such a group so that I could see everyone on the screen. But I would like to find a group of people. And this would be my introductory, I shortened it, but this would be my introductory. So I feel a little funny because once it's out there, it's not, I feel odd about it. But is this possible for me to show you this last very, very disturbing, and I have to give you a, what do you call it? A trigger warning? Is that what they call it? Because it is a very disturbing, just find it. It's called The Other Side of the Story. And a lot of us use this very regularly. So let me just share the screen. share sound. And I mentioned before that two things bother me. One is the having to kill, all of the people in the land. And the other one is I find unconscionable the Noah's flood, right? This I find just the flood, destroying all the people for that. So here is called the other side of the story.
By himself like that.
We have no choice. This is beyond us. This is what we were explicitly told. We have to leave.
Oh, I'm quite aware of that. But he's only a child. How are we supposed to tell him?
We are not going to tell him. We're just going to leave. There is no other way.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just can't find the strength. How can you be so detached?
This is how. Have a look. You see, we don't have any choice. Now hurry up, because time is running out.
Mummy! Daddy!
Oh my God.
Is something the matter?
Nothing's happened, son. There's some food for you on the table.
I've already eaten. Look! I found 4 nuts.
Good, son. Just put them in the cupboard and go play in the woods.
Mummy, how come you're packing?
We're leaving for a few days. A short visit at your aunt's.
Great! So I'm going to pack for myself too.
No, son. You're not coming with us. You're staying here.
But I don't want to stay here. I want to come with you.
You can't come with us. You have to keep an eye on the house.
Are you sure nothing's happened?
Don't worry. We'll be back in a few days. Come along.
Be a good boy.
I wonder what's happened.
Hurry up. It's going to be your fault if we're late.
Couples only. I repeat, only pairs. Couples only. I repeat, only pairs. Couples only. Couples only.
Okay. I'm concluding with this, but I think that this really speaks for itself. It's available on, you can find it online. If any of you are educators who want to use it, you can. This is, to me, modern Midrash at its best, where you're basically taking a disturbing story and turning it into art. So you have poetry, we've seen art, paintings, we've seen poems, we've seen short stories. I didn't have a chance to play this song to you, but there you have songs. And there are so many ways of doing this. And you also have your rabbi sermons as well, which is another form of tresha. As far as I'm concerned, I'm happy to stay here and answer any more questions, but I think that your program was supposed to end quite a while ago, so I apologize if I've overstayed my welcome.
Not at all. That was actually really pretty, sad. Thank you, Naomi. If anybody wants to stay on and ask Naomi more questions or interested in anything else, please stay on. And if not, thank you for attending. I hope you enjoyed the program.
Thank you so much. I'd be curious if people stay. I mean, it's if you want to stay on, but I'd be curious to hear the song.
Yeah, I would like to hear it too.
Okay. All right, I have to find it again. You've never heard it? I love it. I used to sing it all the time. Where is it? Just have to find it. Oh, it was right before my own thing. Okay, here it is. Share screen. Here we go.
Said it was his right as a man with a crown. He was obsessed she should be undressed, but Vashti refused to be a woman oppressed. She said no to the king. She said no to the king. She said no, 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 no. She said no to the king. The king then cried, find me a bride. She must be beautiful and have no pride. When Esther came, he said, you I will tame. And if you don't like it, well, Vashti's to blame. She said no to the king. She said no to the king. She said no, 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 no. She said no to the king. Esther took heart, that girl was so smart, thinking of others and doing her part. She was to fight to get out of that bind. She needed her body and also her mind. She said no to the king. She said no to the king. She said no, 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 no. She said no to the king. Esther was brave, but the court was depraved. Haman, the evil one, ranted and raved. She took a stand, yes, she made a demand that the Jews should be saved throughout the land. She said no to the king. She said no to the king. She said no, 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 no. She said no to the king. She said no to the king. She said no to the
Okay. That's also available at ritual.org, which is a wonderful. So, okay. So I see some people ask me here. I'll put my email in here, and if anyone wants to contact me, you can. Elise, who is Elise Anderson? Yeah, I'll give you here. I'll put my email in here. Okay, Naomi Graetz 1943. Guess when I was born? At gmail.com. So you could contact me, and I normally meet on Thursdays. Right now, you could enter, if anyone wants to enter the class that I'm in the process of doing now. It's on Thursdays at 6 o'clock, which would be 11.
It's at 12 noon Eastern time.
No, it's 11. It's
11, that's right. I have to go on at
11 a.m. Eastern time on Thursdays. So if anyone's interested in joining, what the ongoing classes, just write to me at Naomi Graetz, and I'll add you to the list. We are well under 25, so I mean, I don't have a problem, of having more people coming in. If it gets to be too crowded, then it could be a problem, but right now it's not. Any other questions? I didn't see. Yeah.
Marlene.
Okay. Thank you. Oh.
It was like Marlene Ostro made a comment. I don't know if it was a question. So,
Jill, I don't hear you.
Marlene Ostro.
Am I the problem?
No, I'm not muted. I don't know.
Now I hear you. Now I hear you.
So it seems like Marlene Ostro made a comment. I don't know if she wanted to say anything or not.
I don't think she's here.
Yes, she is.
I am here. Yes, I had not really known anything about Judith Plaskow or Merle Feld, and it was Sisterhood Shabbat last year, and it was Torah portion about whether, well, my interpretation, whether did Moses actually misspeak at Sinai.
I'm not hearing you. I don't know if I'm the problem or you're the problem. I'm not hearing you well.
Oh, is my audio not on?
We hear you. Naomi, it might be your computer.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you for bringing that up because
I'm going to close all of the. I put my email in the chat. I think. Yes. You see it? No. Oh, I didn't send it.
I don't think it was sent to everybody.
Oh,
now it is. Now it's there.
Okay, I forgot you have to send things. Yes, sorry.
What was the name of the last video you showed again?
The other it's called
Other Side of the Story.
Other Side of the Story. It's on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. It's actually my husband has been using it for years and years, and almost everyone who's ever studied with any of us has seen this. So but we're a select group, so it's not that well known to the whole world. But
well, Marlene, do you want to try again?
Can you hear me, Naomi?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Thanks. I just wanted to point out that I was very pleased to see that you had brought Judith Plaskow and Merle Feld to this class and this group's attention, because I was only superficially familiar with Judith Plaskow's, and in doing research for my Devar Torah, I went to the Torah Women's Commentary, the Reform Movement's feminist book on commentaries, and they included that poem. And because we were doing our Shabbat, Sisterhood Shabbat online, there it is, there you go. We were doing it online. We had a lot of people who wanted to participate, and we didn't have the opportunities for ritual, for ark openings and closings. So I was looking for things to add to the service that were meaningful, that would be an English part, and we chose that poem for the Sisterhood Shabbat last February. So thank you for bringing that to
It's
all
an
of our
amazing book.
attention.
By the way, I make it a point of going back to our foremothers, right? I find it very important. I find it very annoying that people don't give the credit back to those people who have been around for so long. And I constantly, the books that I put here are books, you know, as far as I'm concerned, they're classical. When I began writing, I didn't have all these books. I didn't know of their existence. And I remember when I started to write, and I started, Judith Plasko began by writing for a journal which was called, it was very left-wing and very political.
Was it Commentary?
Oh no, Commentary became very right-wing. As a matter of fact, Tikkun, it was called Tikkun.
No.
I don't know if it still exists, but those of you who are older might remember Tikkun. And she wrote there regularly, and we got Tikkun on a regular basis, and I would just like eat up what she was writing. It spoke to me. And then afterwards, you know, her book came out, and a lot of what she had written then came into the book. But so I make it my business to, you know, we're all now in our, you know, our late 70s, early 80s, and most people don't know us anymore. And I'm really making a point to go back, because this was before everything was common. You know, everything was common today. And in those days, it was not, you know, in Hebrew, you say, lo muvan me'elav. It's not a given. It's not a given. And today it is a given. But in the early days when I began, it was not. And I deliberately, this is the very first time that I've started a talk by referring back to Mark Ellman, because I don't think he gets enough credit. And if any of you get a chance, just Google Mark Ellman and Ed Feldstein, Feinstein. And it's a wonderful dialogue. I had in the earlier version of this, before I realized that I would have to cut it down, I had some excerpts from their talk. And it's just wonderful to watch the two of them in dialogue with each other. And Feinstein starts his dialogue by saying, I used your story on the hamburger, you know, for years. And I said, my gosh, so did I, you know, and I felt that, you know, I had to start my whole presentation with Gelman, because that's where I began. And so I think it's very important for us to give credits to our forefathers and our foremothers as well. So I feel it's very important. Anyway, I'm good for all of you who stayed on here for so long.
Wonderful.
So it's my pleasure. As Jill knows, and Rabbi Ellen knows, and Debbie knows, I love doing this, and I have a lot of fun. And I really like doing PowerPoints, and Mimi too. Mimi's not in the picture right now, but Mimi also comes to my class, and I've really enjoyed doing this these past 2 years. Instead of, you know, bemoaning being stuck at home, I decided to do something with it. And okay, so
Thank you so much. It was an honor having you. Thank you so much.
I'm saying this is the good things that had come out of the pandemic, Naomi. These kind of
Thank you so much, Naomi.